like kind of build on his wholesaling and take you into rental investment on, what happens after that. Okay, first things first, my name is Jason Mendoza. I am the owner of My Rental Superstore. Okay, one of the preferred partners here. What we do is property management. Okay, so we handle everything after you're done. And what I'm trying to do is to hopefully give you more opportunities or tools in your tool belt to sell more real estate. And then when you're done with them and they need a rental manager, a property manager, that's where I come in. Okay, that's what me and my guys do. That we do all the dirty work, if you will. Okay, you make your commission, you're gone. You then need to leave it with somebody who can take care of your client. That's me. That's what I do. Okay, they stay your client. When it's time for them to come sell, they go right back to you. Okay, I was my home group agent. I was agent like number 9 at this place when Jeremy and Mark first started it off. And then a couple years ago, I started talking with them about doing this because it just worked out for me. Okay, I own 28 rental doors now. Okay, so I've got rental properties. It's what I do. It's what I'm passionate about. There's a way to construct this thing and make it work for you as far as sales are concerned. Okay, so we'll talk about rental investments and stuff like that. In the previous class, he was talking about wholesaling. Okay, how the different ways of wholesaling go, how different wholesalers get their deals. Do you guys remember that? Yeah. Okay. So then those deals will come across now. Couple things about that. You're going to want to look at it from a couple different ways. One, you may have clients that are just looking for wholesale deals, cash buyers, okay? So think of it like this. You got a cash buyer, they want to buy, they want a deal, right? They always want them to give me a deal. Everybody wants a deal, but they want that deal, that wholesale deal. Those guys don't necessarily want to hold on to that property. They may want to sell it, okay? Eventually, yeah, they may want it. They may not. They may want to take it from the wholesaler, fix and flip. Yeah? Okay, now think about this. If you have a wholesale client, they want to buy that thing, you take it, Travis, whoever helps you, you're able to get a commission there, you get a sale, right? Now, these guys are going to go in and they're going to fix it up, right? They want to fix it up, maybe flip it. Where do you want to be positioned as an agent? After they fix it up?
You want to sell it.
You want to sell it again. Okay, so you've got one sale. Okay, now if you can sell it again for them, then you can get a second sale. All right, so that's great. We've got 2 commissions under there. Now, if we position it, now not every buyer is what's called an end buyer. An end buyer is someone who's going to own or occupy the house and they're going to move into it. There are then another subset of clients out there that are called cash flow buyers. Okay, they are looking to buy the house and cash flow it, meaning get a rental and rent it out and do that. So now that becomes your rental investment, okay? You have an opportunity to do that if you can just identify that, okay? So that's the key. So anyway, I just want to throw that in with wholesaling just because he had finished up with wholesaling. So keep that in your mind. You can just go boom, 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 keep them down the line, all right? You're constantly trying to identify, do I have a source that I can utilize to sell to different clients, okay? Because every client's different. Some people want fix and flip. Some people want to buy it to move into it. Some people want the deal. Some people have cash. Some people have financing, etc., etc., etc. Okay? The key for you is to be able to look and identify where everybody in the game stands. Okay? So hopefully it can become another sale for you. All right? So look, our objectives here today, we're going to talk about beyond that, what we're going to be looking for in our clients as far as understanding investment properties and what they may be looking for, okay? Again, I'd be remiss to tell you, hey, go out there and try to sell properties to one set of people that are trying to buy a house to move into, okay? You're gonna close it off, all right? You guys are very, very familiar with trying to take the biggest pool you can. Don't swim in a shallow pond. You wanna be in an ocean. So in an ocean, there's all kinds of different things. Again, identify. We want to try to learn the lingo a little bit so that we can talk with it. You're gonna come across the variable. This will happen as you're in your real estate career. You're gonna find people with differing knowledge. All right, you're gonna have someone who just they just want to buy a house and they don't know anything about anything. And you do have to, as part of your job, is to educate them a little bit, right? But then what you're gonna come across is you're gonna come across the amateur investor, who they know a little bit of it, just enough to ask you a few questions to make you uncomfortable. Okay? So hopefully what we'll do is we'll throw a few pieces of lingo so that way you can throw it back at them, and that way you can help them understand I'm not just a real estate agent. I also understand the investment. I understand where you're coming from. I can give you a little bit more than that. Okay? So we're gonna do that. Then we'll recognize the opportunity to try to make more commission. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I'll try to talk fast.
Sure.
I apologize for being late. But will we be addressing it all? Let's say you've got a few duplexes listed right now.
Yep.
And you want to know the best way to get the optimum price in selling for your listing.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
So I just wondered if that would be included. Like if you got a vagabond tenant, do you get them out of there and sell it vacant, or So I thought that that's kind of what we were going to be talking about.
We can talk about that too. So we're gonna encompass a lot of different things.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
What I like to do is with the classes, I'll make it as interactive as possible. I've got a whole slideshow here for you guys and whatnot. So if there are, I can take one road with it, but I also, because you guys are here, I'm here to answer questions and help you out as agents. Look, my job here is to try to give you additional information that you may need in order to make more sales. Okay? So yeah, we can tackle something like that. Absolutely. What's your name?
Pat.
Pat. All right, Pat. We'll do that.
Hey, Patty.
Oh,
Pat and Patty.
I'll remember your name. So basically, I've got 4 duplexes now that
Okay.
I'm getting ready to sell. And I'm doing it for a client, and consequently, I was hoping to get some insight because
Awesome.
my tendency would be to get one side out because, they keep it messy, the whole bit.
Yeah. Does anybody have any objection to that? Otherwise, I'll tackle that right now.
I mean, are you into rental properties? Is that kind of why you're here?
This is commercial.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, I'm here just for the knowledge
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
So all of this will be good knowledge then. All right. So let's start with that. Let's start with an example. So you've got let's start with your example.
Yeah.
You've got 4 duplexes.
3 are together,
3 are
so
together.
it's going to be a 6-plex.
Okay.
And the other's a duplex, and that one I've got almost ready to go.
Beautiful. Okay. Before we go with that, question for the rest of you. She's got 3 duplexes sitting next to each other, right?
They're in a U.
They're in a U. Okay, hold on. Before you go too far, I want to ask this of everybody else. All right, they're all next to each other. As an agent, what's the first thing that I need to ask myself?
If I were an investor, how much are they making?
Yeah, how much they're making, but not as an investor, as an agent.
As an
Mean
agent?
location.
Okay, the location, but look, there's 3 next to each other. Okay?
Or can we sell it separately?
Thank you. Yes,
Well, no.
absolutely. Okay, so look, good learning part. So in case any of you guys come across this, okay, sometimes you may have duplexes and your owner will want to sell them. Sometimes they may have the same APN number, so therefore they have to be sold together. Okay, so you want to ask yourself that. That's an important thing to know because that is something you could really screw up really fast. If you know that. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
And I've run across it before too, where duplexes, even in the same building, are basically separate properties
Yep.
that can be sold separately. And is that,
It,
I don't know if you're
okay,
that way, but
so
is that
can.
common?
It can, yes, it's common as long as it has separate APN numbers.
Right.
Okay, so it's real important. Do they have separate APN numbers? If there is no separate APN number, then guess what? You don't have 3 duplexes, you have a 6-plex. Okay?
Well, this is the
Keep
whole
going.
thing.
All right, let's go. Yeah.
I mean, there are 3 parcels,
Okay.
but it's like a U, and there's one big common green belt that connects all 3 buildings. So it's logical that it could be a cash cow for one
That
investment.
green common area belongs to,
What?
it's part of one of the 8.
Well, it's
parcel
all
numbers?
combined, but he's owned it so long, this client of
No, but my
mine.
question is, let's say that you put those 3 parcels, different MLS numbers. That common area will go to one of the parcels, or will it be separate?
It would have to be split up because those are 3 parcels.
So you have to.
But he set it up so that there's one fence across the front, okay? And literally, and it's like a big green belt, and all of them bring the kids and the toys out into that one green belt. So again, the question would be,
But it has to belong to one of the parcels.
Have you, okay, so
Well-
here's a question. Have you not asked the survey, but have you had title tell you where's the property lines? Is there a division there? Or is there a common area that belongs to all 3?
do you know what, that's a good point. Thank you.
Find that out. Yes.
I'll go ahead and do
Please, guys, that's the point of this class, is to be able to look at different things like that because it gets tricky. Once you go from single family to multifamily, now it starts to become more of an issue. You've got to, as an agent, again, They're gonna look to you, you're the expert, okay? Use your escrow officer. Once we get that preliminary report, you can see, and you wanna go to that plat map and go, where's the clear dividing line there? Now, number two, let's stick with this, Pat. Are there multiple sewer lines? Is there 1 meter? Yes, no, on this property?
Yeah, that one, I have to fix that before I sell it, so I'm really focused on the first duplex, and I got that, the duplex.
Does it have its own water meter? Separate from the other 3? Okay, please, real important on this.
It's way down, it's like a block east of Scottsdale.
Right, but
The others are
I'm just talking about the 6 that are together. So look, I've never run into this before, guys. I'll tell you a little story based on that. A couple years ago, I bought a place off of 6th Street in Mojave, rough part of town and whatnot. And I had a triplex. I got it dirt cheap. There was a guy that owned 7 units next door to me. Okay, we shared a water meter and we shared electric. Okay, it was a disaster. It was an absolute nightmare. They weren't sub-metered. Yeah, it was terrible. Eventually, what I ended up doing was selling the triplex back to the guy that owned the 7. I made money off it and whatnot because it was back in 2011, 2012, so prices were dirt cheap. I held on to it for a little bit, but it was a mess, okay? I did it, and I could take on liability like that because, I've been doing this for a long time. My first rental was back in 2003, so it's not my first rodeo. But for somebody like who is not a professional investor, they can be in a lot of trouble really quick. And guess who they're looking at? The real estate agent. Patty, what you got?
I just said like me.
What's that?
I said like me.
What happened?
No, you were just saying about, somebody who's not an investor.
Yeah.
Or doesn't know what they're doing. It's like, yeah, like me, could
So
be in a lot
look,
of trouble real quick.
Let's talk about this really quick, guys, because look, this is a really important piece that you can get out of this class. We don't talk about this a lot. Number one, make sure if you're selling multifamily, make sure there are separate APNs. If they're not separate parcel numbers, then it's on one. Okay, that's one. Number two, is it sub-metered? Does every unit have an individual sub-meter? If it doesn't, they're sharing electric. You got a problem. Okay. 3, are there possible separate? Is there a separate water meter? Okay. Now this one isn't very common. More often than not, there will be one water meter for the property. So if you got a duplex, triplex, fourplex, there's usually one property. I just found a gold mine. One of my investors came to me the other day and he's all, I got this triplex, I need some cash, and it's got separate water meters. I was all sold. Are they 2 bedrooms? Yes, I was sold. And we bought it. And it's a home run. It doesn't happen all the time. Okay? If you are sharing a water meter with the property, that's okay. That's pretty common. It's very common that you will have water, garbage, and sewer, and it will all be just for the property. This is what I would advise you as a realtor, though. If there are not separate electric meters for the units, let your owner know and probably go, you're not going to want that one. Because one thing you don't want to do as a landlord is have and pay for everybody's electric. And if they're not sub-metered, you might be stuck with that. That's one thing that you want to completely avoid. Okay? So on these 16 units over here, we can assume they probably has separate, it has one water meter. They all have separate electric meters.
Yes.
All right,
And the
excellent.
landlord pays the water on both of those. And
Yeah.
I've checked most of the buildings around there, and that's typically the case in an MLS when I've been researching, that the landlord pays water, and then the electric
Is on the tenant, and gas as well.
Yes.
Okay, so gas and electric, advise your clients, don't pay for that. Do not do that. I mean, if for whatever reason, okay, let's take another scenario. Let's say you have month-to-month leases, and you take over and your owner takes over the property. Okay, at that point you might be okay with if they're paying for the electric. Soon as he takes control of the property, 30-day notice, I will not be paying your electric anymore because it's now month to month. You can change the terms of the lease. Okay, so now let's tackle the next thing that Pat was saying. Thanks, Pat.
No problem.
What are the terms of the leases right now? So what do you got over there? Are they long term?
They're month to month.
They're month to month. Okay, so let's clarify that. Long term is going to mean something that has some sort of duration, therefore going on. So a 1-year lease is a long term lease. 6 month could be a long term lease. Month to month is a month to month lease. Okay, every 30 days it rolls over, it renews. Either side can opt out at any time in 30-day notice when we're in a month to month. All right, question for you. Is it better to have long term or month to month?
Long term.
Do you think, I was thinking month to month so they could increase the rents, the new buyer.
You wanna, if it's an investor, you want it to see that there's money coming in every month. I don't know, it's just me.
It's a trick question. The bottom line is there's a benefit either way, okay? Now, this is gonna depend on what your investor is. If your investor is new, okay, this is their first time going into multifamily or anything, it's probably better to have them have a long-term lease, okay? Just because there's a little bit more stability with it, okay? Risk versus reward is something that we always wanna balance when we're talking about our rental investment clients, okay? Our more savvy investors, ones that have been in the game a lot longer, people like me, well, I'd rather have the building vacant or I'd rather have month to month. And it goes right back to what Pat was saying. I want to raise the rents right away. I want the ability to raise the rents. If I am in a long-term lease, can I do that?
No.
No, correct. You have to abide by the rules that are set forth in the lease. So if the lease says, hey, you gotta go another 6 months with it, then you gotta go another 6 months with it at that rate. It may be $200-300 under market rate. Now, in certain instances, it still may be okay, and that goes back to where you're breaking the building down, finding out, does this make sense for my client, okay? So right now, when we go back to this scenario and whatnot, if they're month to month, that can be very marketable, okay? Especially when you're marketing it, if those rates are way below market value, because then you can start to market it as, hey, $200 under market value, okay? You can market that, that's what we call puffing, right? You're not guaranteeing it, you're puffing it, that's totally fine. It's still up to the buyer's broker to go and do his due diligence to see if that will work for his investor. Now on your end, that's where you come in and you go, okay, we've got this building, it's a duplex, they are, let's say they're each one's renting out for $600, but they should be renting for $800. That's where you go with your client and go, look, I know it says only $600 right now. However, here's some comps. Here's the market rate right now at $800, so we can pencil it at this, and therefore you go in there, raise the rent a little bit, and then it's cash flowing at what you're looking for. Good thing is the rental market is extremely strong right now. Okay, I put anything out there, and it is quick. They're rented fast. If we price it right.
I don't wanna take you away from your.
No, go ahead.
I'm just
This
so
is
into
exactly what
this is a new thing
this is
for
what
you.
our class is about today.
Okay, so the other thing is I met the guy just east of my duplex. And he's from California, he owned a bunch of properties here, and he's from here, and then he and his wife moved to California, so they're divesting themselves of their portfolio, right now because it's too hard to go back and forth. So excuse me?
That's where you call me. You
Okay.
take care of it for me.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So basically, but he was a realtor here for a time, okay?
Okay.
And, cause I saw they had it listed a few years ago. The long and the short of it is, he said he's really updated his, and again, mine are like 800 rent right now.
Yeah.
And I said, is that low for this neighborhood? Because again, I'm called in by my seller and I just do my due diligence as I go. And he said, actually it's typical if you don't really upgrade them. He said, you wanna see what I did to mine? I said, I would love to. So I walked through his properties. They are stellar. So I'm next door, I am getting $765 on one, and I've gotta ask my client what he's getting on the other one. My client is getting older, his memory is going, so his children called me in to handle this. So basically, the guy next door told me he just rented his for $12.75.
Wow.
And so I go in and I look at it, and I said, you're getting ready to list this, aren't you? So I said, would you share with me what you're gonna list it for? So he told me the area that he was going to list it in. And this is an area that is North Tempe, South Scottsdale, that literally duplexes are like, if you're doing well, you're $280,000, okay? For okay, but not through the ceiling kind of remodel. Well, because of ASU and everything else that's so close, he was thinking he was gonna do it listed around 400. Well, of course now, he went back to California, and I'm thinking, I gotta reach him because I wanna know exactly when he's gonna list, because that obviously will up mine.
Yeah.
By the fact that if he goes on at 425, yeah, he's totally remodeled, but that's what I'm gonna bet on. I have been a realtor for a while. I just usually don't do leases.
It's obvious.
But at any rate, so the whole thing is, I've gotta find out when he's going to market, because the potential in there is great. He has one that's occupied though, that he's got the $12.75. The other one was totally remodeled that he took me in. And I forget what he told me on that one, if he was gonna try to put a renter in there or use that as the vacant to be able to have tenants go in and say, this is the possibility that you've got. This is what this looks like. The other looks the same, and that's why this is the rental
Beautiful.
that you're gonna get there.
So you can utilize that as a sales technique too.
Well, I gotta find out
Right?
what he's gonna list, cause again, I've already put new roofs on, I've done all that on the.
Did he let you take any pictures of the inside?
I did, I asked him and I
There
did.
you go.
They're not great pictures,
Now
but I
listen,
did take
listen.
pictures.
You can't put those pictures on the MLS, but you can utilize that as a dream of what, well, again, you can't, let me rephrase that. You can't put them on the MLS for the property that you're selling, the existing property, but if that's the next door, what it could look like, could you utilize that as a sales? Hey, to somebody who's gonna buy, look, if you were to do this, this is what the one next door looks like, this is what he's getting. If you put these capital improvements, you can potentially up your rents to that level.
Well, especially
There you go.
because on the rentals, typically you don't ever let them go in. It's drive-by only and, obviously viewing with accepted offers.
Does anybody know why?
Excuse me, what was
Does
that?
anybody know why? So listen, when you see a multiple unit listing in the MLS, Pat hit something right there. More often than not is going to say drive-by only, do not disturb until an accepted offer. Does anybody know why that is?
Because they have.
What's that?
They don't scare away the tenants.
Exactly. They don't want to scare away the tenants. Okay. A lot of people go off of a lot of the investors. They go off the theory of disturb the tenants as least as possible. Okay, which is fine. If your investors will balk at that and whatnot, you got to try to overcome that and explain to them, hey, that's what's kind of customary here in Arizona. All right, you got to put your offer in. You're gonna have a 10-day window, right? We're all agree with that. We got a 10-day window. I put my money down. I got a 10-day window. If I don't like it, if it looks at me wrong, I'm gonna go, yeah, sorry, I'm out, and I get my money back. But you got to tell them, you got to put that money down. It is fully refundable to get that interior look for the most part. I don't know how it works in other states and whatnot, but in Arizona, that's pretty customary for almost every single one. And I'm going to write an offer here and after this class for one of my investors, and it's usually always drive-by only. Don't disturb the tenants until they have that thing. Wow, they're going.
And
Yeah.
we need the signs that we don't wanna disturb them.
Yeah.
One quick question
Sure.
for you, because you're very experienced, much more than I am in this element. So, do you typically like going to a property that advertises appraisal done? Because this one that closed at 280, that's like 3 blocks east, that's one of the things they said, appraised property. One hadn't sold for that in a while in there, and they may have thought that it was in their best interest to get an appraisal, and they
Right.
advertised in the listing, appraised at X, to verify, because on some of those old properties there that haven't sold in ages, you don't have any great comps.
Yeah.
So, do you typically like it when you see appraised at, or doesn't it make any
It
difference?
doesn't make any difference to me. My buyers will offer what they want to offer. Okay, market is supply and demand. My buyers want to offer $1 for it, they want to offer $1 for it. If they want to offer what the appraised value is, they offer the appraised value. I'm going to tell them what my opinion is, based upon what else I see myself, closed comps on the MLS. Now, one of the things is, and just mind you, when you start talking about multifamily and whatnot, it's unlike single family where you can just go that 1 mile radius around. You do need to go farther out.
How far
Okay.
do you go?
Oh shoot, I'll go as far as 8-9 miles out if I need to. It depends. If I can find them close and tight, I'll use those. But I'll keep going and going and going until I find something. Because
So what's the comfortable zone? I mean, like.
the comfortable zone is that's very difficult to say. Because again, you might have a property. When I used to live in California, there was a place called Gonzales, California. It's outside of Monterey. And I remember we had a duplex there that we were selling for a client. Couldn't find any comps. We had to go all the way to King City, which was 15 miles away, to get the next duplex because nothing had sold. Nothing had sold in like over a couple of years. That was a duplex. It just depends on how far out you got to go. Now things are different when it comes to multifamily. Okay, you're looking at a couple different things. Okay, so look, let me tell you right now. Not every duplex is made the same. Okay, those duplexes that are over there, they've got a unique situation. Some duplexes, and this is where it becomes real important. Some duplexes are 2 side-by-side studios or efficiency units. That is not the same as a duplex that has a 4-bedroom house and a 3-bedroom house in the back. They're completely different. So sometimes you have to go far out. You may have a very unique situation. What I usually look for is units that have at least 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms are a lot more marketable than 1 bedroom and studios. Okay, 2 bedrooms. I like to get 2 bedrooms because that just gives me that but it just depends. How unique is your property? Is your property just like the duplex down the street? Or again, is it a 4-bedroom? Does it have a lot of acreage? Do you have a garage? What are the different things that are there that will help you get to, all right, here's the key, the going rent that it rents for, okay? Because what we ultimately look for as investors, yeah, duplex, cool. How much can I rent it for? Okay, so me as an investor, as a professional investor, I look at it and I ask myself, how much can I rent it for? I don't really care what the MLS says, because agents like to puff, right? They like to puff, whatever you want to call it. They like to puff up the numbers. Okay, a lot of times they're not right. They're not even close. Okay, they're putting it out there. And again, it's what I do. So I look through it and I'm like, oh, hell no, man. I know this area. There's different pockets in town where it's really rough. It can go literally block to block. Okay? And you got to know that. It's just, I happen to be a property manager. My guys and I, we do this all day and all night. So we can look at something and go, yeah, it's not going to rent for that. It'll rent for this. Sometimes I'll see it and go, hey, I got people in there and they're paying nothing right now.
So
I can jack that up right away. Yeah.
is what you're telling me that the value is gonna correlate directly with the profitability?
It's going to be a lot more correlated to the profitability and condition than what the area is.
So.
Because you may have 4 duplexes down the street and they're all 1-bedrooms. Here may be 4 and a 3. I found one in Mesa not too long ago and that was a home run. Yes, sir.
I guess that's sort of one of my questions, right? Because if you're selling a traditional house, it's gonna have an appraised value, so on and so forth, but most income property investors are cash flow based, and there's times where it can be dirt cheap just based on kind of what it is and where it is, but the cash flow you can take is significantly better for an investor. How do you get the difference between, there's value in that, but how do you get there?
The value is determined by the investor, okay?
Right.
2 investors, equity investors, cash flow investors. I'm a cash flow investor.
Right.
It's always king. I could care less what it will buy, what it will sell for down the road. Doesn't matter to me. Now, your equity investors, that's what they're looking for. Can I look at some sort of appreciation down the road? Is it in the nicer neighborhood? Is it, is there less for me to do? Is there less that could go wrong? Okay, risk versus reward. I'll take the higher risk, but I've got a bigger portfolio, so I can spread it out, that risk over my portfolio. When you're an investor who has 1 property, right? If you have a vacancy, you're 100% vacant, right? If I take a vacancy right now with 28 properties, what is that, 4% vacancy, 5% vacancy on my portfolio? I've got more risk that I can tolerate right now. But you got to figure out your investor. What is prime for them? To me, I make better money in the hood neighborhoods, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is going to be higher turnover. Yes, I'm not going to get as much in rent, but my price per square foot is going to be way lower, and that's what I'm looking at. I always look at what's called ROI, return on investment. I don't look so much as at cap rate. Okay, you have a lot of people who look at cap rate and whatnot. I think cap rate it's all good and well and whatnot, but I don't think it's indicative of what you're really looking at. What's going to be return on investment? And what I'm talking about is dollar for dollar return. What you put in, not what the bank put in. Okay, so look, what I like to do is I like to leverage properly. I like to get loans, but I like to get conventional loans on my properties, so therefore I'm utilizing the bank's money. If the bank's going to lend me at 5%, they're taking that 5%. Only the cash that I'm putting in there is my risk. Only the cash that I'm putting in there is my return. So I want to see what that return is going to be for me. If I can buy at a lower price in a neighborhood, maybe it's not Scottsdale, but I guarantee you I'm going to probably get a much higher return on my cash. Okay? Because values in Scottsdale are a little bit higher, the rents aren't commensurate. Yes, ma'am?
Do you buy single family as well, or do you just buy like duplexes?
If it's a good deal, I'll buy it, but it's got to be a good deal. And so that comes down
is
to
there a percentage?
What's that?
Is there like a percentage of return on investment that you're looking for?
Right now, yeah, but it changes over time. Right now, I'll take about 15-16%.
Woo! You're not going to get that in buying my ones that I'm listing.
See, but I just got that in the one that I was just talking about, in the triplex.
No, but I get your point about Scottsdale
Exactly.
versus, because the ROI, when I talked to the guy from California who lived here, and again, because I said,
Do
I
you know
know
what they're-
most investors look for like, at least 10 for these ones. You're not going to get that in this neighborhood.
You won't get that in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that in Tempe and whatnot. And that's because the price is going to be a little bit higher and whatnot. Your rents will not reach, they're not commensurate with what you're getting. Depends on your objective, okay? So remember, guys, you need to ask yourself, what is my investor's objective? All of them have a different reason for it, okay? But and I'll give you one real simple one. Somebody buys a house, they see a house that's in their neighborhood, and they buy it, and they rent it out, right? And they go next, year or so, they have a kid. Cool, you got a kid, kid turns 18, well guess what? They've had that renter over there, they've been paying that house off for 18 years. Guess what they do? Turn around and sell that house, just pay for the kid's education. All because of the foresight to buy one investment in their neighborhood. That is a that is a great strategy for college, by the way, if you do something like that, because you just had a renter that just took care of that for you. And if you have a house that's down the street from me, or from you, that's easy to manage. You can manage that yourself. That's not going to be that big a deal. You want to hire somebody like me, I will take it, and I will take all the burden and everything else off you, and we'll do that for you. But that is just one, real simple, and believe me, anybody can get their head around that concept, right? Any one of your buyers can go, yeah, I can get my head around that. That's easy, I got one rental over there, and I can pay for my kid's college with that. Absolutely. You can do the numbers for them, take them an amortization schedule and go, look at 30-year mortgage, you'll pay it down to this, even if it's at the same sales price, you will make this. It's probably going to go up. It's very, very unlikely that it's going to go down. So therefore, you have that. It's just a different strategies. Who had the next question? Back there? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, do you also manage, do you also do commercial?
I don't do commercial right now,
Uh-huh.
but I'm getting there. Like my company, we're starting to expand and take bigger and bigger projects.
Okay.
So we probably will have a commercial management division within the next year or two.
I think apartment flips are pretty hot right now, aren't they?
Really hot right now.
What's really hot?
Apartment flips.
Well,
You're gonna do big apartment complexes. You gotta have a lot of money to do that, though. You have a lot of money to do that. So, or a good relationship with a lender and a bank, right?
Because I've seen some people, sometimes they go and they don't buy the building, but they lease the building, and then after they lease the building, they make little sections there,
Yeah.
and then they rent those suites.
It's a lot,
That's
and again,
different, right?
it's different, and it's a lot more intense when you're doing something like that. The commercial, retail spaces like that, you gotta really know what you're doing when you get into those sectors, because you're now dependent on the business cycle. Okay, right now we're I don't know if we're near the top of the business cycle. We're pretty damn close. The economy's been really good. Do we see restaurants everywhere? A lot of stuff has opened over the last, say, 8 years. A lot of stuff. Do you remember what it was like here in 2010?
Vacancy, commercial vacancy all over.
Vacancy all over the place. There weren't as much restaurants and stuff like that as you see. All you have to do is look with your eyes. You can watch the stock market. You can listen to the president. You can listen to Nancy Pelosi. You can listen to the Fed. You can listen to everybody, right? Watch CNBC. Blah 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 blah. Or you just drive down the street. Drive down the street and you can see what's going on. Right now, things have been really good. Everything always works in a cycle. It does, guys. Property works in a cycle. Business works in a cycle. Stuff like that. Residential places to live, those work in a cycle too. However, people always need a place to live. There will always be renters. The market may not be as good as it is now, but there is a market for renters. Now, let's tackle Scottsdale versus everything else, right? All right. And the reason I do that is because this is something that you also want to consider. And when you're looking at investments, especially for your clients who are just they're looking for something that's not too risky, right? So they say, hey, I want to get a single family house. Okay, cool. You can get in Scottsdale and the rent could be like $2,600, right? Cool. You're making $2,600, $3,000, something like that. Just keep this in mind. This is why I position a lot of the rentals that I have the way I do. When times go bad, the person that was paying $3,000 a month in rent isn't going to afford $3,000 a month in rent.
That's fine.
They're going to have to go down to maybe $2,000 a month, right? And the people that were at $2,000 a month may have to go down to $1,500, to $1,500, and so on and so on and so on, right? When you're at that, and mind you, not everybody can afford $3,000 a month, okay? Everyone can afford $500 a month, okay? The pool becomes more shallow the more you charge in rent. So consider, it is an inverse risk that you're looking at when you start talking about higher end rentals. I can't tell you exactly where that breaking point is. For me, my guesstimate is probably the $1,500 to $1,800 range, but it's somewhere in there where it's like, will these always be marketable and people will be able to afford them? I think so, and below that range. When you get above that range, now you have to start thinking to yourself, and it doesn't take a genius. I'm no genius, guys. I'm just telling you, it's just common sense. When it starts to get to an upper range, that pool will start to get more shallow, and it will dry out as people don't have that money, as times get difficult. So consider that when you are talking to an investor who is like, I want to have that North Scottsdale address. I want to have that. It's like, okay, I get that. I totally get that. But look, if you can put less money down, make a little bit more return, and be in a little bit more safer range of rental, would you at least consider that? Okay, now look, I know it may hit your commission a little bit because you're not selling that top range, but believe me, they'll remember you, they'll love you for it, and they'll refer you for it because you did the right thing on it. And that's the thing. Ultimately, long term in this business is to make sure that you put your clients in a position of success. If you don't, and you're only thinking about yourself, eventually they'll come back and get you. It always was. I've seen it happen before. So just consider, that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
And I don't want to screw.
No, go ahead.
But basically, I'm going to play devil's advocate, because when I moved out of Cave Creek, I did a house rental in North Scottsdale, 260 for a short time. And I remember a workman coming there, he would say to me, he'd say, geez, he said, I have rentals I'm developing, but he said, I've got a lot of delinquency because I've got some real deadbeats in there, etc. He said, my goal is to be able to have renters like you, namely me, that take care of the property, that pay the rent, and all that sort of thing. So I looked at people that I knew that were in Scottsdale that bought in the 90s, that were getting things for $170,000, $160,000, cute little 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And again, then they're getting $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 a month from people like myself that were very good. I mean, they gave me their bank, I automatically put it in their account. That's how we paid rent, right?
Yeah.
So help me understand. And my ex-husband had, like you, a bunch of them. And again, he was always having issues with they beat our places up and we had to evict them. And so help me weigh the differences there.
Well, let me tell you what. Does anybody know what his problem is? Because I already can identify it. Why he had that problem.
He didn't screen them well.
Hey, there's the winner right there.
Yeah. I got it. That doesn't surprise me.
Pat, it all comes down to screening.
Collected up in deposits.
Yeah, it's
didn't
deposits,
even
but
get a deposit
most importantly is screening. And that's where me and my company come in. Because again, it's what we do day in and day out. Credit, background. Honestly, I had a meeting yesterday with my agents, and you know what we came up with? We no longer have a minimum FICO score. We don't have a minimum FICO score. Does anybody know why? It means nothing. You know why? Because if they had a good FICO score, they'd be buying. All right? FICO score doesn't mean anything when you're looking at a credit report. That's an arbitrary amount. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. It starts the picture for you. Okay? A person could be out of bankruptcy. Okay? There could be a lot of different things that are going on there. Now, you could have somebody who has a very high FICO score. Let me show you why they may not work out. They may be okay on their payments and stuff like that, but they may have a mountain of debt. And they are about to tip over the edge. And you rent to them and whatnot, you can push them over that edge. And that can easily happen. So what we do is we usually look at the credit report and we look and go, how much debt do they have? All right? Where does the bankruptcies? How much collections? Do it more in depth like a loan officer would do to find out what's their real viability as a renter. Then I look into the rental history. Okay? If they have any evictions in the last 5 years, disqualified. That's it. So I'm looking at their rental history. Then I'm looking at their employment. Give me some pay stubs. Oh, you're self-employed. Great. Give me your bank statements. Give me your tax returns. Let me see that you can afford this place. Okay? Because I want to make sure that in the middle of summer, when you're running your AC at 60 degrees and your bill's $800 from APS, I want to make sure that you can afford that. It all comes down to screening. And that's what we've become really good at. We screen, and make sure that you give your owner the best possible person that you can put in there. Because that makes the difference. I got a buddy who's an investor. He's the same thing. Constant turnover. Now he has a little bit lower end. I mean, he's got a fourplex off of 14th Avenue in Pima downtown. That's rough. That's a rough neighborhood down there. $550 rentals and stuff like that. And he's got a revolving door there. Okay, I've got one not that far from there. the same people in there for years. Why? Because I work on the screening. Screening, are you employed? Can you afford this? What's your background? What's your history? Okay? And you really have to work hard at that. Yeah, man.
How far do you go with that? Like, I recently was talking to this young lady who had applied for a lease on, I don't remember if it was a house or a condo or whatever. And, they got another application and they accepted the other application. And she asked them, well, why'd you pick them over me? They flat out told her it was because she was a single mom. And that there was a two-parent household over there.
Yeah,
so
she should have went right away to the department.
Well, that's what I told
And
her.
then went to equal housing opportunity. That was a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Never a consideration for me. I tell my guys flat out, I'm like, I don't care if they're green from Mars, I don't care if they have 15 kids, whatever. Unless it's an occupancy issue, you can do that. If somebody goes in and goes, hey, there's, it's a 2-bedroom and I want 15 people in there, then you can know you can only have 2 people per city. Per city guidelines, that's fine. But never in a million years can you say something like that. It always comes down to
And
who
I'm
is
just guessing that
looking
maybe
like
it
they're
was
the
a
best.
private person that was non-licensed that maybe didn't know any better. Either way, I thought it was a horrible thing to say.
Potentially, you still can't do that. If they do live on, now if the owner is private and they live on site, they do have the right to some level of discrimination because it's inviting them into technically their own home. But if the owner doesn't live on site, it's a private owner, they're still under those laws where they cannot discriminate against people.
So you're just looking at numbers.
I'm looking at numbers and their history. Numbers and history is all you can really look at. Color, creed, sexual orientation, background, all that stuff's irrelevant.
Because that was just.
No, that's just straight up illegal.
Fair housing.
Yeah, that's discrimination. That's straight up discrimination. So we don't do it like that. Like I said, we just look at them. Who's the best candidate on paper? Based upon the information that they're giving us. I mean, the other day we had one that came down to it, and the people both applied. And usually I will take applications within 48 hours. Once we have somebody who's applied and paid for it, then we'll have 48 hours where we may take somebody else. And a lot of times we'll tell somebody, hey, you can put your application in. We already have somebody, so if you want to save your money, be our guest. Because I don't like how there are a lot of agents out there that just gouge. They will take 10, 15 applications. That's not right. Because all you're doing is taking money from all these people. And then you run all their applications, and you should tell them up front, hey, we have somebody who's applied. Or you want to come in and apply, it's this close. We have that window that we do it. But it all comes down to who is the most qualified candidate. And like I was about to say, was 2 people were almost identical. One person had a little bit more in income. And I just said, sorry, they make more money. They're a little bit more qualified. The fairest way I could do it. That was the first way I could do it. Everything else was equal. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been listening to, one end of things. I'm on the other end of things. I'm the tenant here,
Okay.
as well as real. So I had an 800 credit score. 850 something. It was up there. I had money, and I couldn't find a place to own. Why? Because for the last 10 years, actually 8 years, I took care of my husband who was very sick and didn't work. So the debt income ratio, which I didn't know anything about, disqualified me.
Ooh.
And also I'm wondering, do you know anything about the Winfield of Scottsdale?
The Winfield?
I was just wondering.
The development, you mean?
Background. It's an apartment complex.
Yes. You mean the one that's right down here in that south side?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you know anything about the background behind them.
No.
Is there under new ownership or something?
I have no idea either. No clue. Do you have one more question up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
When leasing a property, I noticed, just me, that if the property is in good condition, good, nice, and ready to move in, it's more possibilities to get a good tenant versus a bit of property. If the property is not that really
Correct.
clean and nice,
I get that.
you will get a not so good tenant.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Because,
true.
Going back to her ex-husband, probably the properties were not good, that he couldn't market to a good tenant.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not clean and everything like that, although not quite as much, depending on where it is in town. More importantly is if it's structurally there's issues. A lot of times what happens is when we're doing these deals and looking for multifamily, structurally there'll be a problem. That's one thing that you want to avoid. It doesn't have to be as beautiful. A lot of my clients, they don't care less what it looks like. As long as structurally it's intact. Do I have any roof issues? Do I have any deficiencies here? Paint, I went to one that was tomato red the other day, and I went there, and the problem there was because as I was looking through the neighborhood, you're just looking and there's just unseedy individuals just hanging out. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do and whatnot, but my owner was like, I just don't get a good feel about this neighborhood because of the rest of the element that's around. You can have that, guys. You can have situations where you're going to have drug neighborhoods. Sunny Slope, anybody heard of that place?
Oh, yes.
A lot of drugs go in and out of there. That's not me making it up. That's just fact. Now you have to tell your investors, hey, go do your background, your history, and stuff like that. But when you have stuff like that, those are spots where you may want to avoid. Okay, you want to really do your homework and just go, hey, from an investment standpoint, does it cash flow? Does it make sense? Okay. Unfortunately, here we went through a lot of different things, and that's fine. I with these classes, it's more important for me to sit here as a resource for you guys, so that way you can, hey, pick off little pieces of information here. A lot of things like what Pat's gotten over here are just things that you may run into. That APN, remember that. That is huge. If you run into that, look for that. Go ahead.
What about piping? For instance, some of these, I noticed in having some repairs done, that he's got some copper and some galvanized because they're older units. Again, I dealt with older, but when you're dealing with these complexes and I'm targeting an investor,
Yep.
How do your investors feel about galvanized piping?
Investors don't like galvanized piping. Galvanized piping is a nightmare, right? But it depends on how much of it has. Okay, we know that galvanized was around till about what, roughly the 60s, give or take?
These were
60s,
built-
70s?
I think these were built later. I have to double check.
Yeah, a lot of times that's where it goes. And a lot of your stuff from there until, 10 years ago when they started using PEX is copper. Copper's fine. Galvanized tends to collapse. So you will have that potential of galvanized eroding and collapsing, busting, and then a lot of times they'll have the galvanized and then into the clay that goes out into the sewer, those collapse as well. Okay? Your investors, what I would say is this. If your investors, if you have anybody who's not a professional investor, that has not done, a bunch of these units, tell them to get a building inspection. Just like you would do with a regular home buyer. Get a home inspector and tell them, get the home inspector and pay for it. Okay? We know how that is. When you're selling a single family house, $400, $500 and whatnot, at least they can get that home inspection. If they find a cracked foundation, broken piping, just all kinds of things like that, they go, hey, it was worth it. That was the best insurance policy you'll have. Same thing on multifamily. I would still recommend doing that unless if you got somebody who they know their stuff. Like I don't use building inspectors anymore because I don't need to. It's all I do is I look at it and I got my handyman will go through and go, we have this and this and this. Okay, cool. I know what I'm gonna have, and I know what could be coming. If you have people that don't know that, then yes, always advise the same kind of thing. Advise it. Yeah.
On a lot of the ones that you buy, again, do you like it if they've had a home inspection done already? So remember, I'm looking at it from the list side. So, you know what I'm saying, or does it make any difference? You're
From the
gonna
list
do yours
side,
anyway.
no. From the list side, you don't need to give a home inspection because it's the buyer's onus to go and get their own home inspection and do their own due diligence. As a seller, you're selling. This is what it is. This is the cash flow. This is what your potential is. Leave it on the buyer. I don't like to assume risk across the side if I don't have to. You may end up in a dual agency situation where you have buy and sell, and so now you've got to kind of put yourself in the middle. But the thing is I don't like to get out there and offer things that I don't have to. Now, in some situations, it may work. If it's a good home inspection and the place is immaculate, that can work in your favor. That's not always how it is. Okay? It
And
really
once
isn't.
we know, it's all of them, we
Once
got
you
to
know.
share on the seller's property
And that's the
disclosure
deal.
statement.
Well, and here's the thing:
Disclose.
if they don't do it, now whose responsibility is it?
Yeah.
The agent, because you're now privy to it. So remember, you open up yourself up to a little bit more liability, and that's what you want to do. You want to try to keep that liability as little as possible for yourself. Okay, continue to do what you're doing, but remember, identify the possibilities. Okay, there are investors out there who don't know they're investors. They're just waiting for you to plant a seed in them, and just tell them, hey, what about buying another house as an investment? What about adding that? If you want to stay after, I'll tell you a little bit about how to do investment properties and whatnot with little down.
Thank you.
Okay, but those are a lot of different techniques. There's a million financing techniques out there that you can utilize.
That was a question I had.
Sure.
In Central Phoenix, where I mainly live and do business, there's a lot of infill going on where they go and they get multifamily, you know, lots and they
Mhm.
start building on them. I just, the one guy I did help purchase some land, I mean, he spent a lot of money on his development, I think, you know. He had maybe about 12 units,
Okay.
3-bedroom, you know, 1-car garage.
Wow.
So, and I know he spent, you know, a few mil
Yeah,
on
he
it.
spent a lot on that one.
But I mean, does it make more sense sometimes to just build from the ground up, and what kind of financing would you need in order to pull something like that out?
Construction loan,
Say it again.
construction loan.
She's absolutely right. You need a construction loan, or you need the cash. So look, construction loan, you're gonna need to own. You need to own the land, or be very close to owning the land free and clear.
So you couldn't roll the land into a construction loan?
Potentially. So you gotta have your financing and talk to lenders about that. There are different lenders out there that will do different things. And you got your construction lenders, you've got, you know, hard money lenders, you've got venture capitalists, you've got a lot of people out there that will do different things. So you can kind of alter what you're gonna do, but with something like what he did, he probably bought the land free and clear, then went and did a construction loan, and they opened up his finances and said, we need to see your plans from the city, your permits, we need to have your name of your general contractor, all of his subs, everything else like that. And then your architect, give us your plans, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. Okay? But for something like that, the question actually was, when does it make sense to do that versus to buy? And it makes sense when buying is too expensive. Like sometimes in California, it may be so expensive to buy a fourplex, you might just want to build one over there. I don't think we're at the point yet here in Arizona where it completely makes sense to buy, but I think we're getting close, or to build. But we're getting close.
Well, I mean,
Certain pockets.
in the central Phoenix market, there isn't much left. I mean, everybody's just kind of picking at the same time.
They're
Yeah.
buying the old, I don't know if you know where the Eagles Car Wash was, they're in Macau.
Yeah.
They're building and it's sold before built.
Yep.
Condominiums, and I think they're gonna be building another one, St. Thomas and.
They probably
and
had to get
Seventh.
a variance though, because that was a commercial lot.
Yeah.
That's a commercial.
Everything's red hot down there right now, so if you can buy a lot and build it, then, you know, more power to you. But you just gotta do your homework, you gotta do your numbers. Does it make sense for you for it to work for you? If it doesn't, then you walk away. Buy something that's already built. I'm already way over, guys. I don't even think I went past a couple slides, but it doesn't matter. As long as you guys got something out of it. Okay, just remember, when it does come down to property management and whatnot, that's what my company handles. I'm at the top of the stairs here. We're called My Rental Superstore, and we work in conjunction with my home group.
Oh, you work here?
Yeah, I've got an
This is
office
right
here, at the top of the stairs. I've got an office here.
With tenants, like looking?
So we will work with tenants in our own portfolio. What I don't do is we don't go out and search for other rentals for tenants. We just don't have the manpower for it. If you do have renters, you can always contact us. Otherwise, there are a lot of new agents here at my home group that would be more than happy to take those rental clients off your hands and go look for them. I'd be lying to you if I told you that me and my guys had the manpower for it. We don't, because we work for our owners and we work on a lot of our own stuff. So just, you know, but any kind of questions, any kind of problems you have, especially when it comes up to Landlord-Tenant Act, do not hesitate to call. Help out a lot of the agents because they just get, even their clients have some weird stuff going on, and I'll do my best to see if I can find answers for you.
Do you have an attorney you could use? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll tell you that right now.
This one I know from personal experience. Anybody who has a problem with, like a property manager, there's an agency called the Arizona Tenant Advocacy. And they don't have a fancy office, they don't have, you know, corporate, whatever. They have, they're in a neighborhood situation setting. They know the law.
There you go.
And I have already needed their service. They were able to straighten out a situation like this. That
Good.
took me weeks to get to try to even understand what was going on.
You guys would be amazed how many property managers don't know the law and how many of them are breaking them like constantly. It's crazy. But it's real simple. Attorney,
For an
right?
eviction, yeah.
Dr. Evictor. Spell the name out. DoctorEvictor.com. It's whole holiday and holiday. They are the best when it comes to eviction.
HOE, Ho, Holiday and
No, no, no,
Holiday?
Hull, Hull, Holiday and Holiday, that's the actual name of them. But if you go to the website, drevictor.com, you can get all their info and they will be more than willing to help you. Yeah, we actually use them as a management company for all of our stuff.
Do you put the 5-day on and then pass it to them when it comes to then?
As a management company, yeah. You don't have to. I mean, if you own it, you can actually go to court
That
yourself.
was another thing, I thought that
Oh,
law
yeah.
has changed, only the owner can go.
That's the truth. Only the owner can go, except if it is an attorney. That's why I don't go as a
Yeah.
property manager. I can't go for you, but I'll send our attorney, Dr. Victor, Whole Holiday and Holiday, and they'll go for you and they'll evict them, kick them right out. Great state of Arizona. You can get people out 21 days if you want to.
21 days?
21 days, as little as 21
And
days.
what's that typically cost?
$300 to $400. It's actually not that bad. It usually it can be 21 days. Usually it's more like 30 days, which isn't bad. California can be 8
A year.
months, a year. Yeah, certain parts of the Midwest, if it's like it's snowing right now, can't kick them out. It's illegal to kick them out. So that's it, guys. I'm over on time. Anybody wants to stay, I'll answer more questions, go over more stuff. But thanks for coming. I really
You know what,
appreciate all
thank
of you
you very
sticking around.
much.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I got a few cards, some pens and stuff I'll hand out to you guys.
I did commercial property, management for 2 years.
Oh, did you?
I know a little bit,
Okay.
so,
Well, if you're
if you
ever
get in the system, let me know.
if you're ever looking to do commercial,
I did it for a
Absolutely.
couple of years, so.
thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Jeff, you play commercial?
I did commercial, yeah.
Wow. Commercial real estate?
Property management, not selling, but the building got sold, so I'm starting
Okay.
back, residential. Coming back to my residential.
Okay.
So commercial property management.
Let me know, man. Just you got my email right there.
I'll try to.
Shoot me an email
I
or
couldn't do
shoot
my,
me a
I
text.
was
I'll
telling you
try to
that my
find it.
residential,
Just
I was
gotta
in
answer.
management.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm
I'm
supposed to
here
ask you.
usually 2 days a week.